Let's first talk about how shitty it is to get a bad review. I immediately got defensive, like bang, immediately. I was like 0 to 100, ready to like strangle somebody's throat. And that's why, if you look at a lot of Google reviews, sometimes the owner will get in there and like, well, buddy, you did this and this and this, and you're a disgrace of a human being.
Those negative reviews with a great response will actually get you business. I actually get excited when I get negative reviews because I know I can respond to it and probably turn them around. And it's some of the best marketing you can do.
So now, how do we get more good ones? Welcome back, everybody, to the Restaurant Growth Accelerator podcast. I am your host, Andrew Scott, multi-unit location owner for almost 20 years. I'm here with Dave as well, who's our Client Success Director of Ownership. And what we help restaurant owners do, make more money, have more free time, and spend more of it with their family. And some of them even choose to open up more locations and grow into a massive empire, which we love. So let's dive into today all about customer reviews. What we want to do is talk about actions that can make a difference immediately for customer reviews and complaints, how we can get more reviews, and how we can handle the bad ones. So Dave, don't you just love getting bad reviews?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I have stories. I could do a whole episode just on even one story on how reviews can affect your business, and how it can be, and how we can flip the script more often than not.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm excited to talk about.
Well, let's first talk about how shitty it is to get a bad review. Because what happens, right? We get this complaint, and I used to get complaints that would come in from our franchise head office, and every time we got an email, because then it was like somebody from head office being like, "Hey, you got this complaint.
Yep.
You know, what are you going to do about it?" And I remember just being livid every time, because I would read it and they'd be like, "The service was bad," or like this happened and that happened, and I'm like, "No, it didn't. It was great. Like I served you," and like I immediately got defensive, like bang. Immediately, I was like 0 to 100, ready to like strangle somebody's throat. And to the extent that even when I had managers, let me just tell you that, and this is not how to act as an owner. I'll just be honest. Dave's going to laugh.
Not to do.
Yeah, I still probably do this today, and I'm just going to be honest about that. Dave's going to laugh when I say this. So what happened was, I remember I had a manager in one of the businesses, and there was a complaint. And I got the email. It was like 6 o'clock at night or whatever. I'd already gone home for the day. And I forwarded it to the manager. And I'm like, "Hey, you need to respond to this ASAP." Right? And I waited. 10 minutes go by. Didn't hear anything. I texted her. I'm like, "Hey, you need to respond to this right now." And then didn't say anything. I started calling her like, "Hey, this needs to get responded to right away." Because, I was trying to make sure the managers treated things like an owner would. And what was funny is that she later told me, she didn't tell me this right away. A couple of years later, she told me I was actually on a date at that time. And I literally had to stop the date and like respond to this customer complaint while they were out for dinner.
You're so mean.
I know, I'm a terrible person. But having said that, it was so important to me that we handled these things, and I was so livid whenever that happened. So I just wanted to talk about the emotion of it first, because number one reaction is to get defensive and to get angry because we take our business personally.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and taking it personally.
Yeah. It's so personal because we're in it so much and we care about it so much. It is just like, we just take it so personally. We get so frustrated. And that's why, if you look at a lot of Google reviews, sometimes the owner will get in there and like, "Well, buddy, you did this and this and this, and you're a disgrace of a human being." And like, they'll respond back like that. But I'll tell you what, when you respond to a review like that, and you respond in that kind of a demeanor, I mean, one, you can become a comedy reel for people that, are looking for that stuff. So if you're looking to be social media-ish, you can do that. But and sometimes it can be funny, but everyone else reading the reviews about that will see how you respond to them, and they will go and they will make their decision based on how you respond to that issue, which will then they will make a judgment on whether they liked it or not, and whether they would frequent your business because of how you respond. Because, in life, it's 90% it's 10% of the things that happen to us, 90% of how we respond to it, right? So something happened, right or wrong, or their view is their view, right? And yes, there are going to be people that can complain for wrong reasons. But do you want to let that be the reason why you don't handle any potential reviews, right, in the right way? Because at the end of the day, let's dissect a little bit of why a customer complains. A customer typically complains. Most restaurant owners are like, well, because they want free stuff. I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's a very small percentage of the population. And usually you will see, like, if they complain multiple times over and over, you might then decide that that's not a customer you want in your business. That's fine. But you can't assume that, because if you assume that, you're going to taint your responses for everything else that you do, and it's going to lead you down the wrong path. So what we have to do is actually assume the best in people, and that the reason people complain is because their end quality or the end product that they got did not match their expectation or what they believed the value to be. So I'll give you an example. If you pay, $100 for an amazing steak and it's not cooked right, it's burnt, and you wanted it medium, and it's like well done and burnt, and you ordered this amazing side, and then instead of the right wine, they gave you this like cheap house wine or something like that, and you're still paying $150 for this, you're probably going to have a problem. Or let me do you one better. If you ordered a steak for $100, and again, I'm saying that because $100 should be a decent steak, you'd think, and they show up and they just give you a Big Mac from McDonald's, you're going to be like, what? This doesn't jive. Like, what is this? This is not what I ordered. You are going to be frustrated because what you got didn't match what you were anticipating or expecting. Right. And so that is where people will complain. So it's like that positive or negative. It's kind of like the Goodwill bank. Have you ever heard of that saying before? It's like, like say in a relationship, when you compliment your spouse, it's like you're putting like a dollar in the Goodwill bank. And Goodwill, then, you give them a hug at the end of the day when you get home, and then, or you do something nice, or, hey, I'm going to do all the dishes nice so you can relax, or maybe just whatever is out of the ordinary, for you. You bring them a little gift, you bring them coffee, like whatever. And so you're putting a little points. Yeah. And so you're putting this little dollar in the trust bank, and then all of a sudden, you drive the car into the ditch and you wreck it. Probably gonna take some money out of that, right? Or you say the wrong thing, and who knows what, right? But the point is, you're building up that value, but you can also build up negative value, right? If things are treated, if you told your spouse that they looked ugly like every day, that's going to go to a negative. I highly recommend not doing that. So, but my point is this, we do the same with customers, right? So a customer pays X price. And if they believe that what they got, the value exceeded what they paid for it, you're in positive equity as far as that customer is concerned, which means they will go and tell others. They will spread word of mouth advertising. They will come back more frequently because that was a pleasant exchange. Whereas you come in and then they get below that, they are then angry that they did not get what they were, not only just what they were expecting, they didn't get anything that they were bare minimum supposed to get. And so their way of trying to rectify that, to correct this imbalance, is by trying to have a complaint. And so I would venture as far to say that we as humans function on reciprocity. So if someone does something nice for us, we try and do something nice for them. And so when there's a positive equity in our customer relationships, people will then try and do nice things for us, right? And they're trying to correct that balance by giving us a positive review, giving us another customer, coming back more frequently, telling their friends about their positive experience, sharing pictures on social media, stuff like that. But if there is a negative imbalance, they will try and correct that. And the only ways they have to do that are to either complain in person, which we wish they did more often, but they often don't, by saying a review because of their dissatisfaction. And usually their dissatisfaction, they're just trying to make it known. And that's why people do that. Now, some people, if it's not that big of a difference, they will just say nothing about it and just never come back, right? But usually our complaints are from people who have the cojones to tell things, which is good because we want those, because we need the feedback. But those are the ones we actually need to take more seriously, because there's probably other people that feel that way. For every one complaint, there's usually 10 other people that feel that way and never said anything because they're too nice, right? So here's what happens. They give us this bad review about whatever happened. What they are looking for are two things. They are looking to be validated, number one, right? Number two, they are looking to be compensated, right? Those are the biggest things because they're trying to correct that imbalance. And number three, they just want to be heard. So basically they want to be validated, heard, and compensated. And so let's play this out in a situation. So there was this one, basically it was a Google review that I saw, and I didn't even check Google reviews back at the time. But what happened was we used to offer deliveries before Uber Eats and before all that. And we had sent out this order. The quoted delivery time was 45 minutes, and it ended up getting there after an hour and a half. And then to top it off, because this always happens when when it's late, it's always wrong. It's because, shit's going down at the restaurant, and like things are, people stop following the standards and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, shit was going down. It was an hour and a half. They got the wrong drinks. They got all the wrong toppings on their food. Everything was wrong. And they literally called back, and I think the delivery driver had finished his shift or something like that. So they were just out of luck at that point. There's nothing we could do. And so then they went to Google to talk about it. I think they sent an email, and I responded. And instead of being like, well, you shouldn't have ordered on a busy Friday night. I don't know what a busy Friday night is, but you shouldn't have ordered on a busy Friday night. How dare you try and give my business money? We had 50 orders. What did you expect us to do? That's how I could have responded, right? That's how I probably wanted to respond. But how I did respond is I said, oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened. That is absolutely not the way that things should be. Let me make this right for you. Let me make this right. Tell me exactly what you ordered, and I will hand deliver it myself. And I will tell you what, I will not only hand deliver it, I'm also going to give you extra of whatever. I think maybe I said I would, do that entirely for free, and I would give them their money back or something like that. So it was like almost like I would rectify the situation and then some, or maybe I give them a second delivery for free, whatever the case is. And so what I would always do is I would go one step above that. And because they were so happy with how I handled the situation, right? Because they were so happy with how I handled the situation, they wrote a review and said, I had a bad experience, but Andrew turned it around. I can trust this business, and I will always go back here because of the way they handled this, and they could have handled it differently. So you actually have a bigger opportunity to create lifelong fans from the way that you handle a negative experience. Now, on the other hand, there was another big brand. I remember a girlfriend of mine in the past ordered from them, and basically, they ordered and the delivery was late, had all the wrong stuff, and then the call center that they routed everything to was like, well, we can give you a 10% discount off your next order. And then they were just like, well, no, I'm never going to eat with you again, or order from you again, and I'm going to let everybody know about how terrible this was. Take this and shove it up your where. So that's the way they felt, because they felt the compensation. Number one, they felt they weren't validated. They didn't fix the problem, didn't go far enough, right? So they didn't feel heard, didn't feel validated, and didn't feel compensated for it. Because the compensation needs to go above and beyond what the original issue was. Because guess what? Now they have to take time. Now they have to take that dissatisfaction, even to get them up to even of where it should have been, you have to give more. Because now they've wasted all this extra time, and now they're hungrier, and now they're whatever, right? So you have to go above and beyond, even to get up to even keel. But it is that will create lifelong customers if we do it correctly. So the thing we want to do is make sure we start off, acknowledge what's going on. We want to solve their problem and make sure they feel validated, because complaints are more about feelings than anything, right? So that's what we want to do. So now, in a review situation,
can I jump in on that for a second?
Please.
So one of the biggest challenges with the mindset of a lot of owners, though, is all they see, and actually I've been in there too, but I know for a fact you've been there, is when there's a mistake made, even though it was 100% your fault on that first example, for example, right?
Yep.
It's twice as long, everything was wrong. So now the owner, all they think about is the money that was just spent and the money that you've just lost from that order. And now you have to make another order and give them extra. And all you see is the dollars with wings flying away from you. Right. And you don't actually think about how the impact or of the response is going to be and what the impact of fixing it for the client is going to be. Too many owners only see the dollars flying away. And that's what actually stops them from giving the right response. When in reality, the example you gave of how you ended up handling that made you a shit ton more money long term, because that customer is now a continuous customer. So even though you actually, paid 3 times what you should have for your food costs on that customer and time and effort, because they're actually coming back now, you've made all that money back down the road anyway.
Yep.
Most importantly, it's the thread of conversations that happened on the reviews where they complain and it's legit. The owner comes in, validates, acknowledges, fixes it, goes above and beyond. And then the original complaint gets reversed and it becomes a positive. So now when I'm going down the highway and I look on my map and I click on that restaurant and I go immediately to the negative reviews, because that's what we often do, to see if, like I see there's 500 reviews, it's a 4.6 star, whatever. But I'm like, I wonder what the bad reviews say. And you go, and then you see that thread, you're like, oh, I'm going here 100%. Because the trust that you gain with the client that you helped in that situation, you're actually gaining that trust from every single person that reads that review. And that's the impact that has. Those negative reviews with a great response will actually get you business. And so it is amazing marketing. And I actually get excited when I get negative reviews, because I know I can respond to it and probably turn them around. And it's some of the best marketing you can do.
Restaurant owners, before you open more locations, stop. I've seen way too many owners go from 1 to 2 to 3 to bankruptcy. I know, because I was once there myself. The difference in owning multiple locations is how you have to change, and if you don't make the shift, it'll take years to recover. I took my 3 biggest lessons and put them in a free ebook called the Multi-Unit Playbook, so you don't have to go through the same struggles that I did. Go to the link in the description below and get your free copy today. Absolutely. So I just think it's so important that we understand what that is. And I think you hit the nail on the head with that one, because we see the dollars that we've lost and we see the dollars of sending out another product, because that's real and in front of our faces. But what we don't understand is, what is the value of a lifelong customer? What is the potential value of the people that they will tell and say, hey, don't go there because this happened? Right? We just have to know our customers. And oftentimes we only count the customers that are in front of us or that have been there, and not the future. Because on average, say a customer comes and visits you 2 or 3 times a year, just on average, say your average ticket is, $50. All of a sudden you're talking about $150 in revenue, right? And so then times 5 years, all of a sudden you're talking about whatever that would be, say $800 or something like that. You're talking about a significant amount of money, and you're willing to lose that off of the food cost to redo an order, which, let's face it, for me, for this order was like $20-$30 or whatever. Food cost on that's going to be like $10. You know what I mean? So over $10, I'm willing to lose, an $800 customer. Who in their right mind would be like, no, I would rather keep this $10 than get $800? Who in the right mind does that, right? Only the people that look at the very, very short term, right? So
yep. And
that's what I think we have.
Fear mindset.
Yeah, it's almost like a scarcity mindset, right? And most restaurant owners, let's face it, don't make a lot of money. That's why you're on this podcast, to basically help you learn more and make more money. So most restaurant owners don't, and they want to fix that. And I will tell you that the way to make more money is not by not handling your problem customers or like customer complaints like that. That's not the place to save the money. Okay. That's just very short-sighted, and you could damage that customer relationship. And I'll go a step further. Sometimes you are right and you can still be wrong. Now, let me tell you about this story. Totally. I once had this customer that came in, and she had this coupon that was like 3 days expired, right? And she came in, didn't even notice it. And basically the cashier came from a retail environment where if, like if the deal's over, the deal's over. That's it. You can't do it. That's how she was trained. And so then the customer's like, well, you should just still accept it because I'm here and I have this coupon and I want to use it. Because obviously it was an innocent mistake. She didn't realize she wasn't like trying to slip one under to save $1 or whatever it was. But then the cashier was like, no, sorry, we can't take it. You should check your coupons. Like, like something like, I don't think she said it with that attitude, but, probably said something to that effect.
But that's probably how the customer felt.
Fair. So anyway, then the customer emails me and says, I felt stupid because of this. And it's not about the thing that happened, but it's the way the customer felt. And so think of it this way. Our cashier was right, but who ended up losing? Is the business.
Everybody.
Right? I say the business loses more because we don't get the revenue and we've lost that customer for life. So I had to turn around and now we coached every person that handles taking orders and stuff like that. Hey guys, even if you get an expired coupon, still take it and be like, hey, I see this is a few days expired, but no worries. Let me figure out what I can do to help you. We're just so glad you're here. So you can take a potential negative experience and turn it into a really positive one. Right. And to get that feeling of reciprocity, all of a sudden we're going above and beyond for that customer. And that's always how I want our customers to feel. So that's just something where you can do something right and still be wrong. And in that case, I still went above and beyond. I probably comped her entire meal for that. I probably did that. And, and ultimately she still became a customer and was with us for a long time just because of that. And she probably came back more because of that. Now I will tell you one other story before we move on. I did have one complaint one time because I did own a store that served a bar crowd in a downtown area, had a lot of university students. I did have a person that complained that said they ate their sandwich and they found a tooth in their sandwich. And
was it theirs?
Then they said, do you have a bunch of pirates working there? And I said to them, hey, and they're like, yeah, there's like 10 friends of ours like that are all here. And like, we all want to get free sandwiches because we found a tooth. I'm like, if you bring me the tooth, I will absolutely give you 10 free sandwiches. So now I know that not all things are real. This is at 2 a.m, some severely inebriated people, and we don't typically hire pirates, although that would be funny on Halloween. But the point is not all reviews or not all complaints are legitimate, but we can't make the ones that we feel are a little bit extra like that one. We can't make that. We can't base our actions based on the exception. We have to base it on the rule. Right. And so the fake ones or whatever might be a minority of what comes in, but we can't base how we interact with all of them based on those small minority. And even so, we still go above and beyond. And then if we know they're a frequent flyer with issues, we log them and we basically, we'll handle that one differently once that happens. But you can't assume. You have to assume positive intent when it comes to reviews. So Dave, tell me, how are some ways that you like to turn around some of those reviews? And then what we're going to do after is we'll talk about how to get more positive reviews in your restaurant.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's actually the number one. But actually, the first thing is monitoring reviews. The second thing is replying and responding appropriately to reviews. So again, we talk about a systems, right? So you have to have a system in place for that. So somebody needs to be monitoring, or you need to have alerts set up for any time you get new reviews in any of the platforms. And somebody needs to be watching it. And so timely responses obviously is key because, as Andrew mentioned, it is emotions. When people are taking the time and effort to come in and actually type up a review, it's either because they absolutely freaking loved it, or they had a negative experience, or they were incentivized to go do a review. But either way, they're making the effort to go do it, and it is emotional. And so we have to be timely with it, because if we take too long, if it's like 3 days later, then it's dissipated, and the possibility for you to turn it around and do something amazing, which also becomes very emotional, is dissipated. And actually, their negative feeling or their anger or frustration might have expanded because they didn't get a response or whatever. So the more timely we are, the more possibility that we can flip it quickly and have a positive result. So I think that's it right there. I think those things are probably the biggest things, practically speaking, upfront, is just being timely and having the system of response that we basically been talking about for the last 15 minutes.
Yeah. All right. So now how do we get more good ones? Because let's face it, who doesn't want more of those?
Which is the best way to reverse your bad ones. So, and a lot of people actually, when they get a negative review, one of the first things is like, okay, is this legit, or can I message Google and ask and try to get them to take it down? It's like, don't waste your time and effort trying to delete bad reviews unless it is 100% black and white, clear as day, a mistake or an issue that should be rectified. If it's not that clear, don't bother. Don't take the time and effort. Just give a really good response underneath, because that response is actually the review. Because your response is never to the person who made the complaint as much as it is for the hundreds of people that are going to read it down the road.
Yep.
So remember that your audience is as much the 100 people that are going to read it down the road as it is the person that you're actually responding to. So the other way to balance the negative, so let's say you've got 100 reviews and 5 of them are like 1 star and the rest are, 3 to 5 stars. Great. But then you get 2 negative ones in the same week. It changes your average, but more importantly, it changes what people see immediately. So when people go and look at your reviews, they see immediately that you've got 2 very recent negative ones. So number 1, respond appropriately to each one so that you have that. But number 2, the way to hide those negative reviews now is by adding 20 positive reviews right after, and then they get buried.
Yep.
So that's why we do positive review campaigns, and that's what we're talking about now.
Yeah. So the first thing I always like to do, first step is just ask, right? Yeah. If you don't ask, it is very, very rare that people will go basically, not unforced is the wrong word, but they won't do it on their own of going and giving a review unless they are so extremely satisfied that they really want to do it. And now those are good, but if we want to speed that up, we can ask, right? That's pretty much number 1. So how do you ask? Often the best things to do are ask right in the moment when something happens. And I'll give you an example. Say a server goes to a table, hey guys, how was your experience tonight? And they're like, oh my God, it was so amazing. And so there's some people that are going to be like, yeah, it was good. Those aren't the ones you want to necessarily ask for the review, but the glowing ones are like, hey, actually, we have a little, there's even companies that do like a little thing where they can just touch their phone on it and it'll go straight to the Google review, or you can create a QR code, or you can have whatever, make it super easy. And people can just literally scan that QR code and go in and leave a review. Now, I will tell you that if they do not do it in the moment they are in the restaurant, the chances of them doing it will drop off by about 95% as soon as they leave. I will say that because I have had experiences when I went traveling. I went to Nashville, did a line dancing class, which was amazing, by the way. And the person was like, "Hey, man, like leave us a review on TripAdvisor and do that." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm totally gonna do that." Did I do that? No, and it's been 3 months. So, but had he been like, "Do it right now, I will watch you do it," which sounds awkward, but I would have done it. You know what I mean? 100%. Because I fully intended to, and I had a great time. And in fact, I've actually just done line dancing since in my basement with my girlfriend, and it's a great time. Anyway, if you haven't done line dancing, I highly recommend it.
I'm going to send you a text message later. I'm now your accountability buddy, and you're going to leave a review for that place in Nashville.
Well, now I need to go and find it again. But anyway, point is, if they don't do it right away, the chances of them doing it are slim to none. And so now you can do that. That's one way to do it, just by getting your servers to do it. But how do you get the servers to actually then force compliance? Here's a couple ways you can do that. One way is you can count the number of reviews that mention that person's name. Or you could have unique QR codes based on every server, so you can tell how many times that was scanned. There's a couple ways to do it. Third way is you could actually set something on your tables that say, if we don't ask you to leave a Google review, we will give you a free dessert or something like that. Now, I did this in my own business for our loyalty program because, again, we were quick service, so they would come up to the cash and literally it said, if we don't ask you to join our loyalty program, we give you a free cookie. And I said this on a webinar the other day, and everyone's like, man, how many cookies did you give out? I'm like, there's like 10, because as soon as somebody got called on it, they felt stupid and like they were being shamed like by not saying it. So then it forced compliance because every staff member was like, oh, I got to ask because otherwise they're going to make me give them a free cookie and that's going to take more time and effort and it's annoying. And they kind of like laugh when they're doing like, haha, you have to give me a free cookie. Like it was a thing. And so it forced compliance from our staff. We just had a little sign and changed everything when it came to that. And we did that for every promotion that we did. If we don't ask you about this, and it held our team accountable. It basically forced our customers to hold our team accountable. Because no matter how many times you could stand there and be like saying it till they're blue in the face, about how they have to do it. And sometimes they still won't. So the compliance thing really made a difference. So for our servers, same deal. Those are a few ways you can do it. Now, I know, Dave, one of the clients you and I both worked with, actually had a little business card that they would give out. I believe it had a QR code on it. I'm not 100% sure. But I think it had a little QR code and they would hand it out and they would give it to all their servers. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it said something to the effect of, hey, if you liked my service, my name is whatever. They like write their name in by hand or whatever. If you liked my service, please give us a Google review because, I get a bonus after I get so many of them. So did you walk me through that again? I think I got it mostly right, but what was the specifics on that? Do you remember?
Yeah, I just pulled it up because I knew exactly where it was. It says, we love feedback. Mention my name on any review site and I earn a $25 bonus every 3 times I receive 5 stars. At the very bottom, and then it gives 4 different links of where they can leave a review. And at the bottom, it says, I enjoyed giving you 5-star service. We look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Yep. Beautiful.
Right. Super simple, super basic. Like that can be done a dozen different ways and it's going to have the same results. It's not about the words, it's about the intent and about the timing and the training and making sure that your servers or your cashiers are doing it the right way for the right people. And this will drastically increase your reviews immediately. And now the clients are doing it as much for their server who they now have a rapport and a relationship with.
Exactly.
And they want to get that server that $25 bonus.
Yep, 100%. They're doing it because there's a personal connection. If someone really served them well, it's again that feeling of reciprocity, right? It is basically they are in the positive equity, and so they want to do something nice for them. Now, there's another way you can do this as well, which again is the incentivized fast action. And so what that kind of means is someone can be there and say in a table service environment is probably where this would work well. But hey, if you leave us a review right now and show it to me, and here's this QR code to scan or whatever. If you leave a review and show it to me, I will give you a free dessert or a free appetizer, something of high perceived value that we know they're going to love as a reward for doing so. Because I would be more than happy to pay a few dollars in food costs to get that review. You know what I mean? So that's something you can do. Again, I don't recommend it for every business and I don't recommend doing it all of the time. But if you're in a situation where you're like, hey, we have a lot of bad reviews or hey, we don't have many great 5-star ones. Hey, if you go and leave us a review, I will do this. And that's something you can do instantly. And if they don't do it, totally cool. But they just have to leave it and then show it to you. And then you apply that discount. And that's something you could do for a short-term boost in your reviews as well. So that's one that I've seen work as well. So there's tons of ways to do it. And so I think the main point of what we're doing today is, number one, when complaints happen, we need to go above and beyond to make sure we validate them, hear them, make it right, fix that problem. And then the other part we actually haven't talked about on that is then we need to go back internally and figure out what led to that happening and fix it, because it's also telling us a problem in our business. But having said that, that's a topic for another day. But the other side of it is how to get more positive reviews and how to create more lifelong customers. And so if you utilize these things, I think your business will be in a better position, and you will also be less emotional when dealing with these things, because let's face it, as business owners, the decisions we make when we're emotional are usually far worse than the decisions we make when we are thinking like a sophisticated business owner. And so sometimes when you're reading those reviews or you get complaints, sometimes it is okay to be angry, to vent. And I strongly suggest you type up exactly what you want to say to that person, and then you delete it. And then go back and write what you know you should say to that customer, because those are often different things. And if you do that on a more regular basis, your business will be of a higher value in the community, that'll be more well regarded, and your sales and your profits will.
Okay, well, one last tip or trick. Your reviews are also your own marketing that you can repurpose. And I think people don't utilize that enough, because your reviews live on the review site, which is 100% public. So they are now open for you to screen grab, to screenshot, and post it on your own socials. So if you get an amazing positive review, don't be afraid to use them for marketing for yourself. And it doesn't mean you pull every single one and share every single one, but there may be certain ones that really hit for certain reasons, especially when they become more personal, more emotional, more emotion-based. And the other thing is, even the negative ones, if you have a negative one and you do an amazing response, and then they respond to that and you flipped it around, that is also marketing and post-worthy. So don't be afraid to pull them from the Google sites or from the review sites and put them on your socials. And those are individual marketing pieces that you can take advantage of.
Okay. Awesome, guys. I loved what we went through today. I hope it was helpful. And on the topic of today, if you found what we covered today valuable, please leave us a 5-star review. And if you didn't find it valuable, just blame Dave, and that'll be fine.
I knew that was coming.
Leave us a 5-star review. Leave us a comment. I read all of them. So guys, thank you so much for being here. I hope this was valuable. And if this was, again, valuable for you, share it with another restaurant owner who could use some of these tips to make more money and make their life better. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next one. This episode is brought to you by Ownership Training, where we help restaurant owners increase their profits while spending more time with their family. And if you want to know exactly what it would take to grow your profit margin to 15% and beyond while spending more time with your family, my team has a few spots open this week for a free 15-minute restaurant assessment call. Just click the book a call link in the description, and we'll show you the exact frameworks we're using to help our clients do this in as little as 6 to 8 weeks. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.